I think we're about to get ready, right? Pretty soon.
Yeah.
Situational awareness, survival, safety, and preparedness. Okay, I think we're gonna get ready. All right, everybody. First of all, I think we're gonna wait a little bit. While waiting for others to crawl in for a couple minutes, let's watch this video. And yes, you may grab a note and comment on it and send me something. We love to hear back from you. Of course, sharing is caring. That is what it's all about. So hang tight. We will be back shortly. All right. While waiting for others to crawl in for a couple of minutes, let's watch this video. All right, congratulations and welcome. Welcome for joining us in our exclusive limited time offer life-saving free webinar. Can you see the whole screen? Quick question.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm very excited to have you all here on this webinar, and thank you for choosing to hang out with us for the next, 30 minutes, half an hour. If I haven't reminded you yet, please do grab a pen and paper in case you want to jot down some of the invaluable notes during the session. A little background of this webinar on the very topic, on this particular topic, situational awareness, very close to my heart, obviously, is that we had been launching this topic for over 6 years now. I can remember that in the past, and had been significantly well received by very many people online. Now, we haven't kind of like, fitted away for a while, but nevertheless, with the ever-increasing disasters and today's changing world, I felt that we should reintroduce this topic once again in a bigger way. So yes, I hope that you all listening or watching in to share and post this on your social media pages. And I think we want to go ahead and start and share this all with everyone that you care. After all, I always say this, we're all in this together. And here's my infamous quote I like to share with that. All right, so I want to go back here a little bit here. If you do have your smartphones on, please turn them off, silence it, or whatever it is. We just want you to focus on what we're about to say and then share with you, all right? So before we start, we want to thank to everyone out there. If you are out there listening and watching, first responders, rescue, medical, law enforcement, military, personnel, active or non-active veterans. Before we start, we'd like to acknowledge each one of you and extend our deepest appreciation to all of you who are participating in this webinar. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for all that serving our country. All right. So I'm excited to have our guest, who in fact are on the other side of the globe at the moment, David Gray, a good friend. You know, I have to share this with you, that we did another tape recently for our webinar session, and literally he was traveling and on boarding en route to, I think to Malaysia, correct? I mean, from Bangkok to Malaysia.
Right.
And it was fun. I mean, I was dragging him all over the place. It was always having fun. You know, it's always fun to have you be part of this exciting webinar. We thank you to today's technology, obviously, for keeping up with the busy, crazy schedule like yours. So I am currently armed with a good friend, David Gray, who in fact this time he will be speaking on the video. Actually, you guys can see him on the video here. You guys can see him on this webinar. We tried this before, but for some reason we failed to do so. Well, I failed to do so. You all get to meet him a little bit later and see him as we are getting into this webinar presentation. All right, so here's a little bit of a background of his photos. I mean, he's got tons of really cool photos out there. He's all over the place. And how to contact him, and this best way to contact him is through his website, demus-security.com. He's going to tell you personally how to contact him directly, all right, because he's all over the place with his security company out there on social media. All right, so who are we can attend this webinar? I want to say anyone and everyone. But really, I mean, everyone, anyone, I want to be specific than that, right? Whether you are a frequent season light or business traveler, business owner, homemaker, college students, high school students, you might want to need to consider attending this insightful webinar. And, you know, everyone, anyone, I guess, right? The overview of the situational awareness for the next hour, for the next half an hour, is that you will learn really quickly here. 30 minutes is gonna go fly so fast. The what and why, how to apply it, and basically we're gonna touch on a little bit about safety, you know, reminding you that it's your personal responsibility, and how does this situational awareness save lives? Will it save life? Can it save life? Yes, this is the most important self-defense skill you may want to learn and adapt in your life. Any skill, when you learn and apply, is for a lifetime, so you inherit the skill. The power of mental awareness as well. We're going to scratch base on that one too. Situational awareness, the overview provides basic knowledge, skills, and attitude, you know, for developing strategy for your personal safety in your daily life. Basically, you will learn the overview, like I said. In many ways, the term situational awareness is, in reality, a form of mental, you know, that's why we say the power of mental awareness. All right, moving on. Oh, that's a lot of stuff going on here, right? We're going to cover that. I know the next 30 minutes, he's laughing at me. He's like, really? That's why we're going to like put this into little segments later on. This is just an overview, a summary of what we're going to be talking. There's so much to talk about here after this, right? All right.
Yes, sir.
Currently. And here's another infamous quote. After all of this done, we get to talk. Another infamous I like to share with you all is my favorite of all times by the late Colonel Jeff Cooper, U.S. Marine Raw. I think David Gray would relate to this. Safety is something that happens between your ears, not something you hold in your hands, I should say. All right. So moving on, situational awareness. I say, what is the definition of situational awareness? Really quickly here. We say it's the ability to identify, process, and comprehend the critical elements of information about what is going on in your environment, your element. It is knowing what's going on around you. I'm going to throw this in. Situational awareness also is the perception of environmental elements and events with respect to time or space. And this is something that I have picked up, you know, in the Wikipedia, because I wanted to, you know, make it like really credible what the definition is too. It involves being aware of what is happening in the vicinity to understand how information, events, and one's own actions will impact goals and objectives, both immediately and in the near future. And we're gonna get into that. So, who uses situational awareness really? You can see many, right? Many group of people. National Guard, DOD, FEMA, CERT, law enforcement, to name a few. Situational awareness, I got this also from DOD, making a statement about situational awareness that it needs a war fighters and homeland security responders are strikingly similar. It is similar. A comparative analysis was performed to see that DOD situational awareness doctrine could be applied in a useful way to answer the thesis questions. So, in fact, yes, many agencies are, similarly using this concept into application, right? I think David Gray would agree on that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this, since you do have quite a bit of hands-on experiences yourself. So we want to know the controlled versus transitional space. I know I'm going to throw this right at immediately, directly. So let's talk about that a little bit. In an urban situation or in non-urban environment. Let's give examples.
All right. Well, a transitional space is where you're moving from a controlled environment to a non-controlled environment. So, for example, if you're in your car and the doors are locked and the windows up, that's a pretty controlled environment. Once you get out of your car and you're moving to your house or your office or the ATM or the grocery store, whatever it is, you're in the open between those two spaces. You're transitioning from one to the other. Once you enter into a building, a structure, especially if it's your house. Normally now people in the U.S., they go into their house and they lock the doors, right?
Right.
And they feel safe in their own home. They know where everything's at and how everything works. In the office, now most offices are starting to incorporate security management systems or entry systems at the front door, or they have a front desk. And once you're past that front door, either you need a key card, finger scan, password to get in. Once you're past that environment, you're in a controlled space again. So once you pass that entry, you're in a controlled space again. So for this reason, most criminal activities happen in what we call transitional spaces, in the space between one and the other. This is why a lot of times you see videos or CCTV videos of people being robbed on their way out of a bank. They don't want to be robbed while they're in the bank. Or people being robbed on their way to or from an ATM machine, right? Or to or from their house. A lot of times people are now being attacked on their way to the car or on their way to the house while they're in their most comfortable environment. Most people, they don't turn on their situational awareness skills in their place where they have what you call a comfort zone, right? Where you feel most comfortable, most people just tune everything out. They don't, they're focused on their phone. They're thinking about their daily schedule, where they have to go and how they have to get there. They're not thinking about what's going on around them because they're comfortable in those spaces. So, in this way, police and criminals kind of use the same thing. Okay, so for police, when they want to apprehend criminals, they try to get the criminal in his most comfortable space at a time where his guard is down, which is usually going into or out of their house where they're the most comfortable. Criminals do the same thing. If they want your car, they're going to try to get you as you're coming out of your house before you get to your car. And they know how hard it is to fight inside of a car. It's very difficult. So it's better on the way. They'll try to get you when your back is turned. Right? So anytime that your back is exposed to them, they're gonna get you. So when you're focused on something else and your back is to the world, that's when you're most likely to get hit. And that happens a lot in transitional spaces.
So
So
most attacks occur in what we call these transitional spaces then, basically, right?
most commonly, yeah, most commonly.
Yeah. Some of the examples of these spaces would be like parking lots. That's very common. You know, open space, basically, convenience stores, Starbucks, coffee places. You know, gas stations, elevators
Yeah,
also, right? Elevators, bus, train station. I mean, these are just some to name the few.
a lot of it depends on how aware or conscious the criminal is of CCTV and how concerned they are with it. Some criminals don't care. They don't care about CCTV. They figure that the camera's probably low quality, or they're just on drugs or drunk, and they don't seem to
Right.
care CCTV. But the more advanced criminals will typically take CCTV into consideration if they're doing something slightly more organized. So um, if you're in an elevator and there's no CCTV, and someone else gets in the lift with you and you start to feel uncomfortable, be aware that there's no CCTV. So now you're in what we refer to as a privacy box. Right?
Right.
So between floors, you're in a privacy box, and nobody else can do anything to help you. And if they stop that lift, that elevator in process as it's moving, which some elevators will allow you to do, they'll hit the emergency stop, and that's it. You're now the victim. In Japan, it was for a long time very common for rapes to happen in elevators because they could hit the emergency stop, and there was no CCTV inside the elevator. Um, in the U.S. now, you'll see CCTV just about everywhere. So,
Everywhere. Right. Even on freeways and open spaces like that, on freeways and roads and stuff, right?
right. Well, just keep in mind also that CCTV never stops a crime; it just records it. So it will not stop them from killing you. It will not stop them from raping or robbing you. It will just help you identify them
Documenting
after.
it. Right. The aftermath documentation kind of thing, you know?
So
All
just
right.
just
Exactly. So let's just dive into this as well. The next one, move on into what we call escalate versus the escalate force. What, how, you know, when can you use this? And then to what point, to a certain point? Because I'm trying to make everybody understand that is this needed? Is it necessary? I know you have a lot of examples in this scenario.
right. You'll see. It's up to the attacker whether or not they want to de-escalate or escalate the situation. Most attacks come in if they've decided they're going to attack you in a full-on robbery or assault or something. Typically, they come in very hard and very fast. They they use overwhelming force of violence to dictate the situation to you and maintain control over you as they do whatever they want to do to you. Right. So they try not to allow you to recover from the attack. They keep you in that in that mode of surprise or panic, so that you're not thinking and processing and figuring out how to stop them.
Mm,
However, if you see something that could be potentially dangerous coming your way, there's many methods to de-escalating the situation. One of them that I highly recommend is avoidance. If
right.
you are walking down the street and you see a group of people, doesn't matter if it's late night or midday or whatever, and they seem to be heads up, brains on, looking for someone who's an easy target, avoid them. Cross the street, walk on the other side, turn around, go back, go into a building that has CCTV and sit down and wait for them to leave.
Mhm.
Um,
Creating distance,
or,
basically. That is your plan A.
right, right. Or if you have no other option, but you have to pass them. Let's say you're on a time schedule, you got to get from point A to point B. One of the things that I tell females to do specifically, because they're typically targeted um, more than men, is to get out their phone, call a friend on video chat, and start walking. or get out your phone and record and pretend you're talking to someone on FaceTime or whatever your video.
Very good points.
Yeah. So then you're up and you're recording, and you've got your own personal CCTV system going. And somebody else may or may not be a witness to what's going on, and if they are, they can call the police and tell them where you are. But you need to tell that friend where you are, what you're doing, and why before you pass whatever trouble you see down the way. I myself will call my wife or call a friend or a family member if I'm walking out. We have some nightclub security contracts, so many times I'm coming home at 2:30, 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, which is prime time. Predators are out preying on the drunk, and so I will be on the phone video call with somebody, and I'll say, hey, look, I'm on my way home. This is the route I'm taking. This is the taxi number I'm in. The number plate of the taxi, and this is the driver's name. And if something happens to me, blah, 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 just so you know, okay? And then we carry on with the normal conversation. But that way somebody knows what's going on and where I'm at. So anyway, to get on to escalate versus de-escalate, the attacker a lot of times will determine your course of action. So let's say you're walking down the street and somebody tries to approach you to rob you. If you can't avoid them, or you didn't see it coming and you're in it already, you can first try talking to them. Police call it interviewing, but you can say, hey, what do you want? How can I help you? What's going on? What do you need? And if you're engaging them and you're looking in the face, and they'll make a decision whether or not they want to deal with you.
Yeah, move on with this.
They say, give me your wallet, give me your da-da-da, and whatever they want. And if you want to give it up, fine, give it up. And that might de-escalate the situation, but there's no guarantees. Okay, I have seen people surrender their wallet and still get stabbed to death. So there's no guarantee. So if you decide that you don't want to cooperate with them, you can stay calm, keep space, keep distance, hands up in a conversational interview method like this. But this is actually a defensive block. Hey, look, man, I don't want any problems. Just stay away from me. You go over there. I'm gonna go. And and if they get louder, then you can get louder. If they grab you, as soon as they make physical contact with you, they touch you, you can do what you need to do to defend yourself. Simple assault is the pre-indicator of serious assault, right? So for me, if I'm walking down the street, and I'll tell you a story. Me and a friend of mine named Royce, we had been working at a nightclub here in Bangkok. And we decided after work we were going to go to McDonald's because it's the only place open 24 hours. It's about 6 blocks away from the club we were working in, on a very busy area. Even at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, it's very busy because there's a lot of nightclubs and restaurants, and it's the main street of Bangkok. So as we're walking down the street, we see 2 very large Arab males who we had not allowed into the nightclub because they were very poorly dressed. They were drunk and they were belligerent already. So they didn't meet dress code and they had a bad attitude. So we told them no, they couldn't come in. So they saw us and they recognized us. And so as we're walking down the sidewalk, I can't avoid them. There's nowhere to cross the street, and the sidewalk in Bangkok is fairly narrow. And if I turn around, I'm turning my back to these 2 individuals. And Royce is a few steps behind me, and I'm like trying to get his attention without making too much noise, but he couldn't hear me over the traffic and the background noise. So when I see these guys, they're maybe 15, 20 feet away. They see me and they're like, hey, there's those guys that didn't let us into the club. So the larger of the two, he's about 240, 250 pounds, 6'5" maybe, decided he was going to punch me. So he picked up some speed and closed the distance and took a swing at me. All I could do was move out of the way. I stepped to the side, and he missed me, and he punched Royce right in the chest.
Wow.
Royce, reacted, did a little armbar, pushed him away, and his friend then also started to try to move like he was going to do something, but he didn't. He wasn't fully committed to it. So at that point, I told him, "Hey, back off. We don't want any problems. Just go away." Right?
Were
And
they
Royce is like,
intoxicated at that time?
"Huh?"
Were they intoxicated at that time?
Severely drunk. They're severely drunk, messy drunk. So anyway, and Royce tells him, "Hey man, what the f? We don't want any problems with you. We're just walking down the street." And the bigger one decided he was going to come back and try something again. So he picked up. He had a beer bottle in his hand, and when he hit Royce, he had dropped it. So he picked it up again and acted like he was going to come to us. Okay, so now we're at a point where it's two very large guys against two not so small but not massive guys, average American males. Both of me and Royce are about 6'1", 6'2", and these guys are bigger than us. And they're armed, right? They both got, one's got a beer bottle and the other one's got something in his hand. I don't remember what it was. And I'm thinking, okay, they've escalated the force. They've dictated the terms of this. And so at this point, I pull out I carry a pocket knife. I pull out my pocket knife. I don't open it yet, but I pull it out. And the guy sees I have something in my hand. And he stops. He doesn't know what it is yet. He's like, "Man, I'm going to mess you up because you were blah, 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 blah. You were rude to me. You were mean to me." I said, "Look, I wasn't rude. I was just doing my job." And so he flinches like he's going to do something. I open the knife. It's a spring-assisted knife, and pop it open.
Escalated.
Yeah. So I'm just meeting his threat. That's it. He's got a beer bottle. And by the way, when someone hits you in the head with a beer bottle, they do not break. They are more likely to cave your skull in before they break. And if they do break, they're going to cut you open really bad. So anyway, he raised his hand up like he was going to hit me with a beer bottle, and I opened the knife. And there's still about 8 feet between us. And so when I opened the knife, I'm like, "Dude, don't make me do it. I don't want to, but I will gut you on the sidewalk right here." And he's like, his friend then said his friend helped to de-escalate this situation. Okay, and you'll see this a lot of times. One person will be fully committed to the act, and the other one won't.
Let's just back off. Not today. Yeah.
Like, no, let's don't do it. Let's don't do it. I said, "Hey man, listen to your friend. He's a good friend. He's trying to help you out. Just go home. Just go home." And so anyway, his friend ended up convincing him to go about his way. And Royce was like, "Dude, we should have totally messed him up." I'm like, no. It's really not worth it. Either one of us could have ended up in the hospital, or we all could have been in jail in the same cell. So.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, you did the right thing. I mean, by protecting yourself, because you're already in the zone of pretty much red in this one.
Yeah.
You're in the red already. You're escalated already.
Right. I was when I saw them as I'm walking down the street. I'm always in yellow. Royce was in white.
Right.
He was off work. He's thinking about where he's going to meet his girlfriend.
Exactly.
And so I'm in. When I see them, I'm in yellow. As soon as I recognized who they were and I saw the body language and that they were communicating to.
Yep. Your focus is alert, right?
I went to orange straight away.
Straight away.
As soon as the guy started to come at me, I went to red and moved out of the way.
As soon as
But
you see
thankfully,
something on their hands, basically, I hope, when you see something on their hands, that's when you escalate to red.
well, as soon as they've made a conscious decision to engage you um, in some sort of violent activity, you need to switch to red. And it can happen a lot faster than that. I mean, uh, you can go from white to red, no yellow, no orange, anywhere in between. It just
Absolutely.
changes.
With
Um,
seconds, right?
so, and that's typically what you see is people that are in white, they end up going from white to red real fast, or white to black, which black means that they a lot of times are in panic mode and they have an adrenaline dump and they don't really realize exactly what's going on until it's too late. So,
Exactly. So yeah, so we are talking and diving into this different levels of color code that represent the amount of danger. What you just give as an example of, whether it is to prevent you. But was there any part in that scenario, in that particular scenario, where you could have ran or you could have avoided? I don't think so. I think you were confronted by them in your personal space. That's why you had to deal with them. You know, yeah,
right,
if there was an option for you to do the plan A, which is creating distance, you would have done that, I believe, right?
right, right. If I had the option to avoid, I would avoid, and I've avoided loads of people uh, over the years who've wanted to make problems with me. Just avoided them, and so anyway, I could give tons and tons of examples, but the best thing to do is to say that okay, you're in condition yellow. You've got your radar on, and your radar extends out depending on your terrain, like 10 meters, 20 meters, 25 meters, or whatever it is, or yards or feet or whatever you want to calculate it in,
Right,
right?
right,
You've got you're in yellow and you've got your radar on, and when somebody comes into that radar, you should be looking at them. You should be saying, okay, who is this and what are they doing inside this space? Okay, and then as they get a little closer, then you should probably go into orange, right? Depending on their body language, what they're doing with their hands, their facial expressions, what they're communicating to you, um, dictate whether or not you go into orange or you say, okay, that person's not a threat at all. Uh, we can do this in 300 tenths of a second, walking down the sidewalk every single day to every single person. Um, and I used to play for, some games, situational awareness games with people. So we would be walking or driving down a street, and after a point in time, one of the other people that I was playing this game with, would say, "Did you see the guy in the orange hat?" Or, "Do you see the
right,
shirt?" "Yes, I did." "Okay, what else did he have on?" So then you have to give a physical description of that person,
right.
right? Uh, and what side of the street were they on? What color shoes? What pants? What nationality were they? What were they doing? This kind of stuff. And this is a good game to practice and play with your family members or your coworkers or your friends, and it does help uh, create more situational awareness, and it helps you
It makes you
to
feel, yeah, it makes you think also, it makes you really think.
makes you engaged in your environment, and it helps you to tune in instead of tune out, because right now in today's society we spend most of our days tuning out of our surroundings instead of tuning into our surroundings. So we get sucked into the smartphone, and we're concerned about bills and
Right.
personal. So we need to learn how to, especially if you live in an urban environment. Okay, and you asked me about the difference between
The urban or non-urban.
environment and outdoor environment. Um,
The
is
application of all of this stuff, right?
right, and so Once you're in a wide open space, your radar can go a lot farther. Your field of view can go a lot farther. The number of people you encounter is probably less. The number of animals you encounter might be more. So
True.
you need to modify your parameters of your radar accordingly. And um, I like to be out in the forest, in the jungle here in Asia. Um, and one of the things that I like to do when I'm out there is I'll find a nice quiet space and I will sit down and be perfectly still and perfectly quiet and listen to everything that's going on around me and become very aware of my environment. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a baseline. What sounds are normal? What smells are normal? Um, you know, what kind of movement in the trees is normal? And then what's abnormal? So, um, if you sit still out in the jungle for just a few minutes, you'll start to see birds and squirrels and lizards and snakes and all kind of things going right past you. And you establish a baseline. We should do the same thing in urban environments. It might be a little bit more challenging because of the number of people, but in the area you live in, you need to establish a baseline. What's normal activity and what's abnormal activity.
Right.
So, uh, if you, for example, you come outside of your apartment building and you see a car parked in this same spot and for 10 years, then you got a pretty good baseline.
Right.
Then when it's missing, it should stand out to you, and vice versa. If suddenly there's a car parked where there's never been a car parked before, or there's a new type of vehicle that you've never seen before uh, parked there, then it might be something you pay attention to. If there's people sitting in the car with the windows up and the engine off, or um, something like that, it's something you should pay attention to. If there's people hanging out outside of your building when there's normally not people hanging out outside of your house or your building, then it should be something you pay attention to and you consider it, and you either avoid it or determine a course of action to deal with it. So this comes down to you need to practice it.
I was going to say, you need to practice and scenarios, different scenarios, not being paranoid about it. I mean, it's all about theory when we listen to this kind of thing, the how to, when we offer this kind of theory and everything, it's like, not unless you practice it out and simulate it within different scenarios out there. I kind of like what you mentioned about the non-urban, because I'm very outdoor person, and you are absolutely right about that. When you just sit still out there, you can learn and understand, certain things out there, and you can apply that also within your civilian environment and elements. It's a little bit different, but you have a better understanding, I think. But let's go back again to how would you practice this, because we want to build the muscle memories, obviously, right? We want repetition. We like repetition. So how can we mitigate this within applying the theories into realistically, I mean, almost like practice, I guess, into our reality?
You can attend training classes, or you can conduct your own group training sessions. So you get together with a group of friends, you create scenarios, and then you put those scenarios into play. One of the best scenarios that I've seen in a long time was conducted by some people I know in the U.S. And what they did is they got together with two groups of people who didn't know each other.
Good.
They said, okay, this group of people today is going to be the aggressor. And so they put 3 or 4 people in an alleyway. Then they will send someone down that alleyway or down that street, and they have to respond to the situation as it comes at them. And they had, people trying to come up and sell them watch, somebody trying to come up and uh, sell them drugs. Somebody tried to come up and rob them.
Right.
It turned out that all three of those people are actually working together and to try to rob them. So the first person is just a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
The second person is an annoyance, and then thirdly, if they see this person is not paying attention. So, and and I like that. I thought that was very clever. And they also started to do things like unplanned scenarios. So they would send people wait outside somebody's office to conduct one of these scenarios against somebody as they're coming out of their office or out of their home. And then they would say, okay, it's training, it's over, it's finished. As soon as they responded to it, and then they would evaluate it afterwards. So I would say first, go and get training.
Yes.
And then second, repeat that training through practice.
Practice it out. Yeah, practice it out. Repetition training develops the memory, and then we want that memory muscle to be to be an embedded in our brain. Memory also fosters confidence, obviously, right? I mean, we build our confidence with the confidence, and then it builds decisiveness. We can also build our speed in making decision in a split second. Confrontation with the predators. Once it's become repetitive to you, and then you learn to develop the confidence, and I think that's important. That's a key, important of all of the situational awareness, because a lot of people are complacent about it and say, it's nothing gonna happen to me, not unless it happened already, and then you start thinking about this, right?
With our nightclub security guys that we have working for our company, we do training with them fairly regularly, and we run through a lot of scenarios, and not all of the scenarios end in a violent confrontation with the troublemaker being restrained and
Right.
removed from the premises. We try to de-escalate the situation through what we call verbal judo, and get them to calm down and either leave under their own power or apologize and make amends and continue on with their evening. So we go through scenarios, and we have to practice this as a team, and
Right.
we also have to practice this as individuals, because sometimes you might not have your team there. Even when you're working in a nightclub, your team might be busy taking care of another problem, and you have to deal with one by yourself.
Very true. Right.
So this is something that your everyday civilian, military, or law enforcement should be doing as well, just so that we can learn how to solve problems. I have seen people with absolutely no problem solving or coping skills completely blow up in a situation because they've never encountered a violent confrontation or argumentative confrontation in public before.
Right.
So
Right. Exactly.
they overreact, and when they overreact, the aggressor becomes more overpowering and escalates the situation and overreacts as well, and then doesn't go well. So you need to learn how to stay calm and think. What I most often, what I say a lot is, you need to learn how to think inside the fight.
Yeah.
So while
And
the
make
fight
also,
is going on,
right. And make also plans already, what if in your head, this person has, right, or this person may be running around with another person, with his friend, because as you already know, rats travel in a pack. He's
right?
not confronting yourself, by himself, perhaps by two other people behind you that you didn't even notice and you're not aware of. So that's important to know.
Yeah, I want to tell you another story about another situation, and I've told you this one before, on other interviews. I was coming home late at night, and I'm coming home from work late at night, and I am walking through a road that's been closed for construction, but it's the shortest route to get to the house I was staying in, and so the road is closed for construction, and this means that there is pedestrian traffic back and forth, and small motorcycle or scooter traffic going back and forth during normal hours. But at night, there's only foot traffic. There's no motorcycle taxis like we have here in Thailand. So I had walked this street many times, and I know that there's not many street lights, and there are a lot of dogs. So I was carrying my flashlight in my hand, and I had a bag around my shoulder, and I had someone on video call with me at the time.
Okay.
So the reason I had to carry the bag for work, it's my mobile office. So I have my laptop and many valuable items in there. And I'm walking down this street, and I see 4 people coming at this, from pretty far away, 2 males, 2 females. And they've just come from a club, or a bar, I should say, a bar down the street, and they've been listening to music very loudly because they're all talking very, very loudly. They're still kind of deaf from the music, abusing their ears. And so they're talking in Thai, and I hear one guy say to the other guy, "Hey, look, a foreigner. We should see what he has."
Oh no.
Right? And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So this
What
is.
happened? You understand Thai, right?
Yeah. Well, it helps, and I could understand the body language anyway, even if
Yes.
I didn't know what they were saying. And so they separated. They were all 4 walking together, and then the 2 guys separated out and went to the outside. They're getting ready to try and flank me.
Right, tactical.
And so I have my flashlight in my hand, and I carry a Phoenix flashlight, which is very bright. It's about a $200 flashlight, and it's I forget how many lumens, but it's really damn bright. And so the one guy who had made the remark about seeing what I have was the closest to me and seemed to be the most aggressive. So I shined my light right in his face.
Oh no.
From 10 or 15 feet away, just boom, full force right in his face. "Hi, how you doing?" And it blinded him, and he couldn't see from. And then I shined it at the other guy, and the other guy, he knew it was coming, so he kind of blocked it with his hands up. And at this point, I passed between the 2 of them, and as I passed between the 2 of them, the one guy who started the whole thing said, he's like, "Oh, okay, you got me, good one," right? And that's all I needed, and I got past them. And once I got past them, I kept going. I actually sped up my steps a little bit, but I kept looking to make sure I wasn't being followed. And they were a little bit surprised that that I had been prepared enough just to shine them with a flashlight in the face.
Right.
And that stopped, de-escalated the whole thing, right? They couldn't see to attack. So, and the girls started laughing. Their girlfriends started laughing at him, like, "Oh, ha, ha, he got you. He made you look like an idiot."
It's a prank kind of thing. It's very senseless, and you don't want to be caught in the middle of that,
Right.
A lot of these things are just very, why? Why do you guys do that? So we're saying that if you don't have to be there, don't be there. Walk away. But when your situation, you already have the tool to to de-escalate this situation,
Right.
So that's a good thing.
I tell people that they should carry some type of defensive tool on them at all times. I carry anywhere between 3 to 5 different defensive tools. So, for example, I carry my flashlight, which is a little bit larger than Kupaton. It's about this long. It's about
Right.
5.5.
Right.
And that works well as a striking implement. I carry a survival pen, or what people call a tactical pen.
Yeah, tactical pen.
And I'll carry that either on my chest or in my collar or in my pocket. And I practice pulling it out. And I've learned if I put it on my breast pocket here on my shirt, I have to grab the bottom of my shirt underneath the pocket or at the base of the shirt before I can pull it out, because the little clip that holds it in my pocket will just pull the shirt up with it.
In there. Right.
Need to kind of practice these things. I carry a knife, and most people, even I've had some Thai policemen say, "Why do you carry a knife?" And I say, "Oh, well, it's a tool. It's a, I use it for opening things. I use a screwdriver. I use it for cutting strings.
Absolutely.
But it's also useful as a defensive tool, not only for stabbing, but for striking. Even when it's closed, if you hit someone with the protruding edges of it, it's going to get their attention, and it's going to do more damage to them than to you, which is what you want. Then many times I will carry a defensive spray. In Thailand, it's technically illegal to carry pepper spray because the police don't want it to be used against them. But it's perfectly legal to carry a very odorous spray. So I have this spray, which is here in my bag. I'll show it to you, which smells.
Right. Okay.
It's called Evade.
Okay.
And it says personal defense spray, very repulsive odor, and UV visible identifier. So ultraviolet identifier. So if you spray someone with this, they're going to smell very, very bad for a very long time, and it's very hard to get off. And it doesn't burn, it doesn't sting. It's not like a pepper spray, but it does create a distraction. Yeah, it smells really bad.
So use it as a decoy, meaning, right?
Create. And if you spray them with this, then you use a black light, or the police will use a black light to shine it on them as evidence that you sprayed them. And they can't see it. They can't see it on themselves. Not like pepper spray. A lot of times will turn orange when you spray someone with it, or it'll have a color marker identifier so that you can easily tell if someone's sprayed with pepper spray. This one does not, but if you shine a black light on it, it'll show up. So, yeah. So in a nightclub, that works really well because we've got black lights all over the place. You spray somebody with it, they're going to be glowing in the dark.
Oh, interesting. And plus, they're in the crowd, and they don't want to be smelled that bad in the crowd.
Yeah, well, it'll clear out the whole building, really.
So with that said, I want to say this really quickly. Being aware of the environment is not going to stop a situation. Isn't that the truth?
Right. And then my final defensive tool that I carry is I carry a Glock 19 and 50 rounds of ammunition. So if things get to the point where I've used my flashlight, I've used my pen, my pocket knife, and my defensive spray, or maybe not in that order, and I have to go to my firearm, it's a really bad day for everybody involved.
Right.
I failed.
Right.
I failed on some level. I failed to recognize the threat. I failed to avoid the situation, and I failed to de-escalate. So, but sometimes you can't help but fail because, as I said, the aggressor is going to dictate the situation to you.
Right.
So this is why you got to really be mindful of your environment. Well, 360-degree mindset for sure.
For sure. Yeah, everybody talk about, watch your 6. I added the 9, the 3, the 12.
Yeah.
Forget about that, right? Because why? Because the world is not linear. I think it's really simple as that. So any addition or anything like that, because we are running out of time, as always. Yeah, we're running out of time. Until then, thank you so very much. As always, David Gray, he is, guys, just so you know, he is all the way on the other side of the globe. Let us know where you are. Bangkok, Thailand.
Bangkok, Thailand. And I want to say, if you want to get in touch with me, you can find us at Demos Security on Instagram as well. So Demos Security is one word on Instagram. Also, our website, demos-security.com, and our Facebook page. We have 3 Facebook pages.
Okay.
The main one is Demos Company Limited, DEIMOS co.ltd. So you can find us there, and we share a lot of videos and things and information almost daily. We're posting something about defensive information, self-protection, and stuff like that. And one of the channels I want to recommend, we also have a YouTube channel. It's under my name, so just look up my name and you will see, or you can search YouTube for Demos Company Limited or Demos Security, and it will bring up my name. So we have some videos there as well. Not many, but we have some. And then, but one of the YouTube channels I want to recommend people watch is Active Self-Protection. Okay, they called ASP. This channel,
Okay.
yeah, ASP. ASP, Active Self-Protection. They diagnose CCTV videos and personal videos that are submitted to them for what the person did right in a defensive situation or what they did wrong. And they have some really great videos and some really good diagnostics that they use for it. And they have a good website that also breaks down each individual incident into a report and their 8 steps of 8 measures that that the person should have taken or did take during their self-defense situation. So there's a lot of tools out there, guys, that you can learn from. Please do it. Please take training.
Yeah.
No matter
Yes.
YouTube videos you watch, nothing measures up to real training where you get some adrenaline and you get some excitement and you get an experience of what it's like to be attacked. Nothing will relay what it's really like until you have a 200-pound man sitting on top of you, pounding you in the face. So you need to get some realistic training.
That's it. No,
Okay?
no ifs, no but. That's the way to go. We can talk all day about this, but if there's no training, it won't be realistic. So, all right. Until then, thank you so very much, David Gray, for coming on, and we'd like to invite you back, obviously. And I can see your son, basically Jackie, in the background. So and he's been talking. He's been trying to get your attention. I think. What time is it over there?
It's almost noon, I think. Yeah.
Is that right? He's been trying to get your attention as we're talking right now. All right, gentlemen, ladies, until then, train hard, stay vigilant, and be safe. Stay in condition yellow at all times. Please do. Living in safety is the way of life. All right, God bless. Thank you so very much for joining us. Until then, see you in the next webinar.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.